Hello, this is part 4 of Silicon Valley, the final part that I promised to make sure that you guys had a view of what I showed people at Silicon Valley, and you could also benefit from it wherever you are. In the last part, I talked about the building of this app and kind of the thinking that went behind this change order app, which enables the resident engineers of a construction project to review all pending change orders, sort, filter, search, and also approve them in an easy fashion. The priority of part 3 was to show that you want to think about combining information together for your end users. Now, on that point in this part, we're going to talk about the last screen of this app, which leverages Power BI. So when we have a Power Platform solution, we never want to forget Power BI, because Power BI comes in and gives us such a beautiful snapshot of what's going on. We learn insights from using Power BI. Now, as you can see right here on this screen, these are 2 Power BI tiles. I'll show you how I inserted them. They're really easy to do. But notice that I right away see that the majority of our change order requests are cost. More important than that, I see on the right side that contractor B has been going crazy with change orders, right? And so I might want to have a little chat with contractor B because he's getting up there in the amount of change orders he's requesting, up to the level where he may end up doubling his contract value. Now, I might not be able to see this if I was just looking at the previous page gallery. It might be more difficult to see the current change orders and how they relate to, the whole picture. And that's where Power BI comes in. It gives us these very strong visuals so that we can learn things quickly that we wouldn't normally be able to learn just by looking at rows and rows of data. Now, what I added to this to kick it up a notch is a measure. So we actually have a Power BI alert that will let us know when the cost estimate goes over 10% of the original total contract value, total project value. And so if we go over, then Flow picks up that alert has been triggered and will let us know how far over that we are. And so what I love about that is the actual measure in Power BI is not part of the SharePoint data set at all. We connected Power BI to SharePoint, but then we added measures to the SharePoint data, to the Power BI data model. And there's no way today to kind of connect Power Apps directly to the data model. And so this is my way to get beyond that, because I put the measure in a tile, I set an alert on the tile, and then I use Flow to transmit back to Power Apps what that tile says. Effectively, I shared a measure with Power Apps. So let me show you a little bit about how I did these 2 things. So as far as putting the tiles into the app, it couldn't be any easier than it is, right? You go to the controls list and you will see right there is the Power BI tile. Notice that when I hover over it, it kind of gives me some information about what this does over on the left. And this happens a lot in Power Apps. So always pay attention to your pop-ups because they can teach you something. So I'm going to click on that Power BI tile, and now it's going to ask me 3 questions. It's going to ask me, where is this tile you want to put in here? What workspace? Then it must be on a dashboard. So I'll pick a dashboard that applies. And then finally, it wants to know, well, what tile do you want? Just for the sake of diversity, I'm going to pick a new one, the drawing reference side. And you can see that I can even get these little like 1-letter KPIs, right? Or I can go in here and get cost estimates, right? I can get anything basically that is sitting on that dashboard. Now I think I have another dashboard here that has just 1 tile. So you'll want to make sure that you get your tiles together so that you'll be able to find which one you want, okay? So we're going to take this one, and then we're just going to use one that we used before. And then once you have selected those three things, what's fun is that wherever you want this, you just kind of size the square to where you want it, and it's nicely sized to fit that space. So this tile is the same as this tile on the right, but because I've sized the square a little bigger, it's going to adjust to how much it shows there. So my tip to you here is build your visualizations with the size of your Power Apps implementation in mind, so that it doesn't have to do a lot of scrunching to make it fit in the space you are working in. But what's nice is it will resize based on the size you give it. So it'll stretch itself. If you wanted to take this whole page for that chart, you would just size it and off you go. Really cool, right? Okay, what about this measure? This measure is coming from flow. Right here is a flow response variable. This flow is launched on the visible of this screen, and you can see it right here. It's named Test Power BI Alerts. Let's take a look at this flow if we can. Let's see. Nope, we can't. Okay, so I'm going to go to Power Flow, and then in Flow, I'm going to go find this flow. And let's take a close look at this flow. So it starts with a Power Apps button. That's just like you just started in Power Apps. But then it has a second trigger that looks for the alert. So if I, let's see if I can open up Power BI somewhere here. Let's see. All right, so here we are in Power BI. I'm going to quickly look at my favorites and find the dashboard with the tiles on it. And you'll see that right here, if I manage alerts, I have set an alert that will trigger when this gets 10%, when it gets to 10%. Now, this alert is based on a measure in the Power BI dashboard that's calculating the difference between the base and the original. But it is a measure in Power BI that does not exist in SharePoint. So I wanted to bring the actual value of this measure back into Power Apps so that I could use it in my app. So going back to the flow, I selected that alert, and then I added the respond to Power Apps action. And I gave it 2 words, tile value and is triggered. And it didn't really matter what order I put this in, but when I click in these output values, when you have an alert, you get a few things back from that alert. Let's see, let me just zoom out a little bit. I'm going to click see more, and you'll notice here, these are the things you get when you use the trigger in flow for an alert. You get the actual threshold, like what is the trigger for this alert? You get the title of the alert. You get whether or not, true or false, it is triggered. You get the URL to the tile that you've set this trigger on, and you get the tile value. I think that's really cool. You get a lot of stuff, right? So basically what's done here is I'm sending back to Power Apps the tile value, which is the current value today, which basically only exists if it has been triggered. And then you get your is triggered effect. All right. So now once I have that, now those 2 parameters, tile value and is triggered, will end up in Power Apps. So going back to my app, right, all I had to do was run that to get the information I need. And what I did to kind of be able to retrieve it is I put that whole action into a global value variable that I called my alert response. Once you have that global variable, now you can use it anywhere. And I'm just going to back into this a little bit, hit the dot. And you'll see that I have the 2 output properties exactly as I defined them in Flow. I really love that because I feel like a developer because I decided what the thing would be after the dot. I feel like I'm making methods or something, right? I'm very excited about that. But once I get my tile value, now I can do any math I want about it and show that in my app. So this is how I leverage Power BI in my Power Platform solution. So this is basically the end of what we covered in the Silicon Valley presentation. It was an hour, so that's why I had to split these up. I hope you enjoyed and you got some ideas from doing this kind of thing. I look forward to my next video, which is going to be very flow-centric. And it's going to talk about some of the HTTP challenges that we might have working with SharePoint data. And I'm going to show you some real cool tips for how to handle that really quickly and easily. I look forward to getting together with you again, and I wish you the best weekend. Those of you that are MVPs, you're probably on the plane already, but I'll be looking forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.